Good afternoon. Coming to you live in the gym in Summer Park, New Mexico. This is the 343 commitment and still counting 110 floors for our brother, Lieutenant Robert Wallace. Injun 205, although I'll explain his assignment on 9/11 in just a little while. It's dedicated to his wife of 21 years, Nancy, and his 4 children, Janine, Bobby, Daniel, and Alex. So we have a total of 7 verticals to get to the 101st floor, and 9 floors after that, and our brother will be at the very top. So, with honor and respect, we're carrying our brother of 21 years of service to the FDNY. Our brother was appointed back in 1982, from what it said. So, for his wife of 21 years, Nancy, your husband will never be forgotten. So, we're taking him up all the way to the 110th floor, symbolically going to the top of the towers. And we're just about to kick off that first vertical to get it going. So, dedicating this to the FDNY, off and on the line. At the fire into the bridge, Injun 205, housed with ladder 118. Brooklyn, and Injun 226, Injun. So on 9/11, our brother was actually covering the opposite spot on Injun 226, Injun. And he crewed the engine with Deribio, Smagala, and McAleese, if I got the names correct. So even though he was assigned normally to Injun 205, he was on a coverage spot on Injun 226. So for our brother who gave 21 years of service to the citizens of New York, our brother was said to act like a tourist, although he was from New York. He would point up outside of Injun 205, point up to the sky, and it said lovingly, he was pointing up to heaven. Our brother, it said, was the 3rd generation firefighter, following his father Eugene's footsteps, who was a retired FDNY lieutenant. This is dedicated to the Wallace family, to show that we have not forgotten. 19 years later, we remember. Going on the 20th anniversary, we remember just what we do. And for our brother right now, who gave 21 years of service, he will never be forgotten. Instead, he will always be remembered. His story will be shared for anyone who wants to listen and learn about our brother's history, legacy, and their families left behind. They will not just become a name on a plaque or a picture on a wall. We made a commitment, 9/11/2001, that we would always remember and never forget. And as a country, unfortunately, many people have. But it's our responsibility to keep their names alive, to keep our brothers and their memories going for their families. And right now, this is for Lieutenant Robert Wallace. Even though he was assigned into 205, housed with ladder 118, Brooklyn's fire into the bridge, our brother was actually crewing Injun 226, along with, I believe it was Magala, Deribio, and McAleese on 9/11. For our brother to reach the top, we're going all the way to the 110th floor, symbolically going up with honor and respect for his wife of 21 years, Nancy, and his 4 children, Janine, Bobby, Daniel, and Alex. Your husband and father will never, ever be forgotten. This is the 3rd climb in a row for our brothers, and the 329th brother to be carried to the top in this initial 343 commitment. Before the end, still counting, those who worked the pile at ground zero for upwards of 9 months, where days, weeks, and months, the operation was declared complete almost 9 months later with the removal of the final beam column that sits in the 9/11 Memorial Museum. They will take their turn just the same, going to the very top for the sacrifices that were made to try to bring recovery and resolve to the families, the FDNY, and to our country. This is why we climb. Our brother had a interesting sense of humor. According to Nancy, his wife, they had a Jeep Wagoneer. It said that the Jeep Wagoneer had 3 engines and 2 trannies replaced, and it still would have a tendency of breaking down when they were trying to get places. It said that the kids learned how to go to sleep in the Jeep Wagoneer because it would be pulled over off the road. They'd be sleeping inside of it because there was no room in the hotels. For our brother, who was known to have trudged in the snow to go get Tylenol or another medication in the 80s during a really bad snowstorm, that was one of the memories that I read. Another one said that he was a great father to his children. He taught them the right way of doing things, a father to his kids. It said that his leading phrase would be, "I'm out of here. I'm going to go help the people of New York." Something to that effect. Our brother gave 21 years of service. He was 43 years old at the time of his response to 9/11. From what I read, everything in this climb is by memory. So just bear with me on that. For our brother, who was a lieutenant with the FDNY, who followed his father's footsteps, Eugene, and from what I understood, one of his sons may have become now the 4th generation in the FDNY. He will never be forgotten, but instead he will always be remembered. For our brother, who was not on Injun 205 on 9/11, but he was on Injun 226 crewing as an officer on 9/11, working with McAleese, Caribbean, I believe it was Smagala, on Injun, there at Injun 226. So even though he was from Fire into the Bridge with Ladder 118 on Brooklyn, our brother was actually, again, crewing Injun 226, known as Injun. So right now, this 110 floors is to give our brother complete honor and respect for the sacrifices that were made so that others could live. Our brother is going to the very top to finish his footsteps from working on Injun 226 on 9/11. Part of the greatest rescue effort in United States history, where upwards of 25,000 were saved because of the bravery, the valor, and the heroism that was shown on back of the worst terrorist attack on U.S. soil. upwards of 25,000 civilians, people. Nobody knew what was going to happen when our brothers went in response to the trade centers. But they went anyways, right into the rescue mode to save as many as they could. For his wife and 4 children, our brother, Lieutenant Robert Wallace, will never, ever be forgotten. This is the reason we climb, to share his story, so our brother does not just become a picture on a wall or a name on a plaque. His legacy will live on. His story shared here in stairwells across the United States, in coliseums, and on runs across the U.S. and across the world. They will never, ever be forgotten. And following, as I said before, the end's still counting. Those who worked the pile at ground zero for days, weeks, and months until the almost 9 months operation was declared complete. The last being removed and placed in the 9/11 Memorial Museum. For our brother, who gave 21 years of service to the citizens of New York, followed his father's footsteps for the Wallace family. He will never be forgotten. For his love for his wife and children, it said he would take him and play sports, taught him how to fish. A great father to his kids. And our brother is going to the very top right now. We've got a total of 4 last verticals till we get to that 101st floor. Only 9 floors after that for Lieutenant Wallace. Although he was permanently normally assigned to fire under the bridge in Brooklyn, Injun 205 with ladder 118, our brother was crewing as an officer, Injun 226 Injun, along with DeRubio, McAleese, and I believe it was Smigala on the engine. So right now this 110 floors is his, taking him all the way to the top, symbolically going to the top of the tower with honor and respect for the sacrifices made so that others could live. Pushing him up to the 110th floor, coming to you live in the gym in Sunland Park, New Mexico. This is the 343 commitment, and still counting. 110th floor memorial stair climb for our brother, Lieutenant Robert Wallace, off of Injun 205. 21-year veteran, 43 years old. I believe he got appointed back in 1982, from what I read. He will never be forgotten. His story will be shared for anybody who wants to listen, as the 329th brother of the original 343 to go to the top. After this, 14 brothers left to carry. Taking them up one by one, all the way to the top, sharing their story. As I said, our brother had a Jeep Wagoneer, had a good sense of humor, from what his wife said, because our brother had to put 3 engines and 2 trannies in the Jeep Wagoneer, and it said that there were times it still wouldn't get them where they had to go. I would break down. So right now, for our brother, we're going to the top to finish his footsteps in the greatest rescue effort in United States history. Upwards of 25,000 were saved because of bravery, valor, and heroism. Dedicated to his children, Janine, Bobby, Daniel, and Alex. They will never be forgotten. This is why we climb, to share their stories, so their families know we kept our promise. No matter how many years later, we're still keeping it. We're 19 years in, going towards that 20th anniversary, and we have not forgotten, but instead are giving honor and respect where it's due. A 21-year veteran of the FDNY, 21 years of marriage to his wife, will never be forgotten. Taking him up with honor and respect for his legacy in the FDNY. 21 years is a long time. And our brother deserves that honor and respect. Coming to the third to last vertical. 2 more after this. And we'll be at the 101st floor. 9 floors later, we'll be at the top. The 343 commitment started back in August of 2016. So when we reach August of 2021, it's officially been 5 years since this climb series started. Originally for ladder 118, Joseph Agnello. And now we're Lieutenant Robert Wallace off of Injun 205, even though he was on Injun 226 on 9/11. Our brother was housed there with ladder 118. He will never be forgotten. Our brother's name is being carried to the very top. Symbolically going up with me right now, Lieutenant Robert Wallace. Pushing him up all the way to finish that 110 floors, symbolically to the top of the tower. This is why we climb, to share their stories, their legacies, with anyone who wants to learn them. So they will never be forgotten. But instead, our brothers will always and forever be remembered. This we do for them, the families, the FDNY, and our country. Because we made a promise, and we're keeping it. This is why we climb. For our brother right here, Lieutenant Robert Wallace, off of Injun 205. Although again, Injun 205 is fire under the bridge, housed with ladder 118, with the last picture of ladder 118 crossing the Brooklyn Bridge. Our brother was actually assigned as the officer of Injun 226 on the morning of 9/11. Responded alongside McAleese to Rubio. I believe it was Magala also. They will never be forgotten. Their response to the worst terrorist attack on U.S. soil, where upwards of 25,000 were saved because the bravery, valor, and heroism that was shown, gives our brothers honor and respect, taking them all the way symbolically to that 110th floor in their individual climbs. The 329th brother to reach the top on completion of this climb with 14 brothers left to take up. He will never be forgotten. 21 years of service to the citizens of New York will never be forgotten. 21 years of marriage. His family will always be remembered. For the FDNY off and on the line, there at Fire to the Bridge, ladder 118, Injun 205, and Injun 226, along with the FDNY off and on the line. Your brother is taking his turn, making that 110 floors in honor and respect for the sacrifices made for ordinary citizens and others to be able to live. Our brothers gave everything they had to rescue as many as they could, not knowing what was going to happen. They will never be forgotten. We're on the now second to last vertical to get towards that 101st floor. Only 9 floors after that, and this 110 floors for Lieutenant Robert Wallace of Injun 205, Fire to the Bridge, and Injun 226. Injun will be completed. Another brother set to reach that top shortly. The ants still counting. Those are work compiled on ground zero for days, weeks, and almost that 9-month period before the last beam was removed and placed in the 9/11 Memorial Museum. They will soon begin taking their climbs one at a time, all the way to the top with honor and respect for the efforts given during their recovery at ground zero. They will always be remembered. Their families will be remembered, and they will never be forgotten because we took and made a commitment on 9/11/2001 that we would never, ever forget, and that we would always remember for the families, the FDNY, and our country. Going towards the last vertical. Once we reach the top of the last vertical, it's the 101st floor. And it's only 9 floors after that. And another brother has symbolically gone the whole way. Our brother that used to, it said, act like a tourist, even though he was a New Yorker. It said he would point up to the sky outside of Injun 205, there with ladder 118. It said he would point up, and it also said later on that he was pointing up, knowing that he was pointing to heaven. Our brother followed his father, Eugene's footsteps, became a lieutenant, just like Eugene was as a retired lieutenant for the FDNY. From what I read, I believe one of his sons is actually on the FDNY now as a 4th generation firefighter of the Wallace family, but I wasn't able to verify all that information. But that was read during the preparedness for this climb. And now we're on to the last and final vertical. With that, taking us to the 101st floor. For our brother, Lieutenant Robert Wallace. For his wife of 21 years and his children, Janine, Bobby, Daniel, and Alex. I hope I got that right because, again, everything is by memorization. Later on in the climb, it gets hard at times. But right now, for his family, we're going to the top. For the entire Wallace family, your son, husband, father, our brother will never be forgotten. 43 years at the time of his response to 9/11. 21 years with the FDNY. 21 years of service to the citizens of New York will never, ever be forgotten. Pushing him up. The third tour in a row. Third day of climbing. We've got one or two more in the works. Pushing him all the way to the very top for Lieutenant Robert Wallace. We're almost to the 101st floor. Assigned to fire to the bridge into 205 with ladder 118. But our brother on 9/11 was actually assigned to engine 226. Climbing 110 floors is where we're headed. For Lieutenant Robert Wallace. Our brother right here. Going up from the 102nd floor, 8 floors left. For our brother who was married to his wife for 21 years, had 4 children, and his Jeep Wagoneer that was a beat up old Jeep, but he ended up putting 3 engines and 2 trannies in it, and they gave it a go, even though it said sometimes they wouldn't make it to their destination, and sometimes they had to sleep in it on the side of the road. He loved and had a great sense of humor about that Jeep, the Wagoneer. And right now, we've got a total of about 5 more floors before our brother, Lieutenant Robert Wallace, on 9/11 assigned to engine 226 engine with McAleese and the Rubio, and I believe it was Magala on the truck, on the engine. And he wasn't assigned to engine 205 that day. He was covering as an officer. And this climb is his. Going all the way up with honor and respect for the sacrifices made so that others would be able to live. This is why we climb, to finish their footsteps, to share their stories, so anyone who wants to learn can listen and know their legacies, their lives, and the families that they left behind. They will never, ever be forgotten. This is why we climb, pushing them all the way on this last floor, coming up very soon to the 110th floor for Lieutenant Robert Wallace. This is our last floor now, going to that final 110th floor. With honor and respect for his response at 43 years of age to the worst terrorist attack on U.S. soil, but because of the bravery, valor, and heroism that was shown, upwards of 25,000 were saved. And we have arrived 110 floors. Lieutenant Wallace, rest easy, LT. We'll take it from here. You will never, ever be forgotten.